Hi, my name is Courtney Womack. In this PowerPoint, I will be discussing the fluid compartments of the body and major ionic compositions. So, the first slide. What are fluid compartments of the body? So, the body, H2O, or water, is distributed between two major compartments. Fluids within the cell is known as extracellular fluid, or ICF. And fluid surrounding the cell, extracellular fluid, or ECF, are the two major compartments. And extracellular fluid has two minor compartments, and those compartments are lymph and transcellular fluids. So intracellular fluid, ICF, major compartment. So this is the first major compartment. The ICF compartment composes about 2/3 of total body H2O. Even though each cell contains a unique mixture of constituents, these trillions of minute fluid compartments are similar enough to be considered collectively as one large fluid compartment. Why is the ICF compartment important? So, intracellular fluid contains water and dissolved solutes and proteins. The solutes are electrolytes, which helps keep our body functioning properly. An electrolyte is an element or compound that, when dissolved in fluid, breaks up into ions. There are a lot of electrolytes inside the cells, but potassium, magnesium, and phosphate has the greatest concentration. So extracellular fluid, ECF major compartment, and this is the second major one. So the remaining third of the body's H2O found in the ECF compartment, it is further subdivided into plasma and interstitial fluid, as mentioned in the previous slide. So why is ECF compartment important? So all exchanges of H2O and other constituents between the ICF and the external world, which is the environment, must occur through ECF. The ECF serves as an intermediary between the cells and the external environment. Water added to the body fluids always enter the ECF first, and fluids always leave the body via the ECF. So this next slide will discuss the two minor compartments. So the first minor compartment is lymph. So lymph is a fluid being returned from the interstitial fluid to the plasma by means of a lymphatic system, where it is filtered through the lymph nodes for immune defense purposes. And this is the second minor compartment, which is transcellular fluid. So transcellular fluid consists of a number of small specialized fluid volumes, of all which are secreted by a specific cell into a particular body cavity to perform some specialized functions. So a few of those compartments of specialized function for transcellular fluid include cerebrospinal fluid, the surrounding of the cushioning and nourishing the brain and the spinal cord. So one example of that, what I just said, which was the cerebrospinal fluid, which is important for our bodies to have to protect us just in case we were injured, to protect your brain or protect your spinal cord. Intraocular fluid, maintaining the shape of and nourishing the eye synovial fluid, lubricating and serving as a shock absorber for the joints, and that's good for like when people jump and stuff. Pericardial, intrapleural, and peritoneal fluid, lubricating movements of the heart, lungs, intestinal, and respectively. And one example of the intestines, respectively, and the digestive juices. And the digestive juices help to digest the food. So this is my first graph. Well, this is my first table, and this table is major fluid compartments. So the first major compartment is the intracellular fluid slides, ICF. ICF has 28 volumes of fluid in liters. The percentage of body fluid is 67, and the percentage of body weight is 40. The second major compartment is extracellular fluid. ECF, it has a volume of fluid in liters. It has a 14 volume of fluid in liters. The percentage of body fluid is 33, and the percentage of body weight is 20. You can see on this table how the ICF numbers are double compared to the ECF compartment. The next two compartments on this table are plasma and interstitial. Plasma is the fluid portion of the blood. The interstitial fluid is the fluid that lies in the spaces between the cells and make exchanges with the cells. These two are considered subdivision compartments and are a part of ECF. So the plasma has 2.8 volumes of fluid in liters. The percentage of the body fluid is 6.6, and it makes up 20% of the ECF. And the percentage of body weight is 4. So the interstitial fluid has 11.2 volumes of fluid in liters. The percentage of the body fluid is 26.4, and it makes up 80% of the ECF. The percentage of body weight is 16. From the table, you can see that the interstitial fluid makes up the ECF over more than half. So we go into our second figure, which is the major ionic composition figure. So this figure is ionic composition of major body fluid compartments. So among the major difference between ECF and ICF are 1, the presence of cell proteins in the ICF that cannot permeate the enveloping membranes to leave the cells, and the unequal distribution of sodium and potassium and their attendant anions, negatively charged ions, as a result of action of the membrane-bound sodium-potassium pumps present in all cells. Because this pump actively transports sodium out of and potassium into cells, sodium is the primary ECF cation, positively charged ion, and potassium is the primary ICF ion. So the scholarly article I will be discussing is extracellular fluid, intracellular fluid volume ratio as a novel risk indicator for all-cause mortality and cardiovascular disease in hemodialysis patients. So a study was conducted using 77 patients with hemodialysis, and the purpose of this study was to investigate the relationship between ECF-ICF ratio and the survival of the cardiovascular disease, CVD, in context of malnutrition, inflammation, arteriosclerosis, MIA complex. So, in hemodialysis patients, fluid overload and malnutrition are accompanied by extracellular fluid, ECF, expansion, and intracellular fluid, ICF, depletion. Hemodialysis is the process of purifying the blood of a person whose kidneys are not functioning properly. Okay, so this is a graph from the scholarly article, and as you can see on the first top of the graph, its x-axis is time in months, and the y-axis is all case survival, and for the second one, the x-axis is in time, months, and then the y-axis is in CVD, free survival. So compared with the low ECF/ICF group, the high ECF and ICF group had higher all-cause mortality, CVD, CRP, PV, PWV, and BNP, but lower serum albumin. During the 5-year follow-up, 24 all-cause mortality and 38 CVD occurred, 18 and 24 respectively in high ECF groups versus 6 and 14 respectively in low ECF/ICF groups. In the adjusted Cox analysis, the ECF ratio nullifies the effects of the MIA and volume status on survival and CVD and was an independent predictor of all causes mortality and CVD. Hazard ratio increase. Hazard ratio 1.12 and 1.09 for a 0.1 increase in the ECF/ICF ratio. The degree of malnutrition, albumin, inflammation, CRP, arteriosclerosis, PWV, and fluid overload, BNP, were correlated well with the ECF ratio. So, scholarly article continued. So, in conclusion, hemodialysis patients with high ECF/ICF ratio are not only fluid overloaded but malnourished and have stiff arteries with more inflammation. ECF/ICF ratio is highly related to the malnutrition, inflammation, MIA complex, and major risk indicator for all-cause mortality and CVD. And these are my references.